So, hello and welcome to another episode of Student Success Spotlight. That is part of the mini series called Be One of the Voices. And today I have a pleasure of speaking with Lou Carey. Hello, Lou.
Hello, Anata. Thank you very much for having me. I love that. I love that it's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time to speak with me
Uh,
today.
You're welcome.
So, Lou, you are part of the cohort that is coming to the end of the training, the 160-hour trauma-informed somatic teacher and coach for women training certification. And you started in October last year. So
Yeah.
I know you are on the module 7,
Yes.
looking at how to become embodied feminine leaders. It's
Mm,
been an
yeah.
interesting conversations that we had, and with Isabel, who's kind of
Yes.
delivering portion of it. But I wanted to start really with, could you tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you do? Because you are already a very experienced practitioner. So if you could share
Yeah.
some about your work would be great.
Sure. No, you're welcome. Um, so I have my own business, my own, I suppose, yoga business up here in the Lake District. And what originally started off as primarily classes has slowly evolved into some classes, but actually a developing body of work with private one-to-one clients now. And I have found over the last couple of years, particularly, that I've been very drawn to working with probably mostly women, to be fair, but not solely. And they have, suppose, discovered me as being someone who is making more of an approach that is perhaps more embodied and more somatic. And it's meant that the individuals I'm mostly seeing and my classes that I offer are in such a way that they are much more of a guide and a support rather than a sort of directed class. Particularly with my one-to-ones, I'm now working primarily with people who are dealing with various traumas in their lives, PTSD, anxiety, depression, suicide attempts, mental health issues surrounding eating disorders, and so on. Um, and some of those people are slowly also find their way back into my classes as well when they feel ready to be part of a bigger group as well.
Mm.
A lot of my work is with women also who are around midlife and are looking for something to nurture and nourish them in this middle stage of life. And they're wanting something that is more than just an exercise, and they're wanting a class environment that brings community, companionship, um, and love, I suppose, in its simplest form. So yeah, that's
Mm.
kind of me.
Lovely, lovely. So I know from our conversations and obviously from the training that you do a lot of work and that you collaborate with a lot of different
Yes.
practitioners in your area as well, and that you're working on some really exciting projects.
Mm.
Um, and so I wanted to ask, why did you sign up for the training? What was the kind of thing that drew you into this particular training?
So I suppose it comes with a little bit of a background. For many years, my personal practice had been developing into one that was much more based on inquiry, investigation, and curiosity, because I could never understand why you had to do yoga the way that somebody else told you. And in my head, I was like, well, yoga isn't a mathematical or scientific equation. You can't sort of have two definite inputs and get a definite output. Because for me, there are so many variables to a yoga practice based on human experience and emotion, wisdom. And so I was like, how can there be such hard and fast rules? That didn't work for me. And so I found that when I started teaching, this more authentic personal practice naturally came through into my classes. And so from there, I suppose folk have become aware that my approach to sharing yoga and movement in general has been one which is much more somatic, much more embodied, and allows for greater inclusivity and accessibility. And therefore, over the last year, I've seen an increase in the number of students and clients that are coming to me who are looking for this embodied and somatic approach as a means, as I've said to some of my clients, or a lot of my clients are dealing through trauma, PTSD, anxiety, attempted suicide, and so on. And although it's an honor to feel very trusted by these people, I knew I needed my own support of greater and increasing knowledge, a shared wisdom from the group experience, experiential learning, but particularly self-reflection and guidance for myself personally to ensure that I was going along the same journey as the people that I was working with. And I knew when I was looking at a course that I would get this from this particular course. It was really quite apparent. And obviously we had an introductory sort of discussion and call and lots of backwards and forwards emails. And yes, it felt very, very secure and safe for me to be doing the course. Yeah, so I suppose that's why I chose it.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Thank you. And so, you've already been doing this work with your clients. You've already intuitively you were moving into it and exploring it and finding your way, which is always a sign of a conscientious practitioner. I find that for many of us who've been on this path for a while, we start questioning, we start finding our own way. And I really hear that you were looking for some kind of structure and support around it through your own process, as well as kind of working with your clients.
Yeah.
So I wonder, how has your work changed? How did your work change because of the kind of material and the process and the community, and the support that you experience in the training?
I suppose as my work changed, I think a large proportion of the course, for me anyway, that I've discovered has been about doing the work on ourselves, and embodying the practice that we're wanting to share with the students and clients. And I thought I understood this fairly well, and I thought I'm so deeply self-aware, and I'm not being hard on myself, because you don't know what you don't know. And I feel so grateful to have had this course and the time I've sort of ring fenced around it to go really much deeper. And so I suppose the way it's changed how I work is that I'm quite a different person to who I was 6 months ago. And I know myself better and feel more confident in the work I'm offering, and have better boundaries, greater self-compassion for myself. And I don't know whether my student clients would agree with that, but I feel like I'm a better version of myself and able to, I'm not massively changed what I'm, who I'm wanting to work with, but I feel like a better version of myself to be able to continue working with them, I suppose, if that helps or makes sense.
Definitely that makes sense. And it's like, sometimes people talk about become a different you, and we don't become a different, I don't become a different me, just like you didn't become a different you. But there is those things that you were talking about, that B word, boundaries, boundaries, and really being able to understand yourself better and your needs and meet your needs in a different way, make slightly different decisions, the decisions that are more aligned with, maybe your values, or maybe the way that you want to live, or the way that you want to work that were always there, but
Yeah.
sometimes it kind of, there are certain things that we need to change in our behavior for it to align with what we are thinking and what we are believing.
Yeah, and I agree. I felt that maybe I was I knew my rough direction, my sort of my path, um, but I felt a little bit like I was a little bit not lost in the forest, but I had a lot of paths, and they were all kind of going in the right direction, and I just wasn't quite sure which one to take. Whereas now I feel more certain of the path. I know we talked about this in our last meeting. I feel like there's one path with paths coming in that they give me new experiences and ideas and thoughts, but I'm still on the path. And so
Mhm.
rather than the confusion of too many paths, I've got more like one with, yeah, these inputs. And that I find very exciting. I was sort of contemplating on this the other day, and it's not trying to sort of big myself up as such, but I was imagining myself a little bit feeling more like now, like a new version of a lighthouse, and how a lighthouse sort of puts out a beam to sort of guide ships into the harbour. And I'm not saying I'm as important as a lighthouse, but I feel like I feel more structured and strong like a lighthouse, and that the beam that I'm putting out is not just sort of randomly going everywhere. It's very much directing ships, not everybody, but the ships into the place that they want to go to. Um,
I
and
love
allow
that.
those,
Can I just
yeah.
say I absolutely love
Yeah.
that. I
Oh,
absolutely
no.
love that because it's like when I was thinking about this mini series, I was thinking about like, be one of the voices, be one of the voices, and actually, but that requires us to really embrace and honor, that what we know that we need to do. And this
Mhm.
is exactly what you are talking about. It's not about, oh, I am the best or I am the strongest or I am, I know what I'm talking about. But you're talking about really embracing that responsibility and
Yes,
sharing what you know and guiding people to it because it works and it
yes,
can help. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Thank you. You said exactly what I was thinking in better words than me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love that metaphor. I think it's such a visual, um,
Yeah.
really wonderful to understand. Yeah.
I definitely need visual images. They certainly work and help for me. And actually, they're a big part of my personal practice, but actually what I share with my students and clients, and it usually can be quite helpful.
Yeah, no, great. And I know that you are, because we had conversation obviously during the training, that you are doing some really great, you're working on some really great projects within your community. So I wonder maybe you
Hmm.
could say a few,
Sure.
a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So well, around COVID time, I had realized that I was coming towards sort of my perimenopausal period, or had approached and reached menopause, and it was quite a like, oh, that's me, that's my time now. I'm one of those people, and um, and my yoga practice was obviously very important to me. I was teaching, but not able to teach during COVID. But I was able to do my menopause yoga training with Petra Coveney, which I really enjoyed. And once COVID had stopped, I was able to start sort of thinking a bit more about me, how I can most authentically bring myself to my classes. And it's not that I don't ever work with younger people. I still absolutely do, but I wanted to embrace my stage of life within some of the work that I was doing. And so I was starting to develop classes and work with women around that age. And I had the privilege of meeting a local GP who had recently moved to Kendal from Manchester, Dr. Kath Monroe. And we got talking, and very quickly we found ourselves out walking together, putting the world to rights. She's an advanced menopause specialist with the British Menopause Society and has had a lot of training experience within women and beyond. And so for the last 18 months, we have been working collaboratively on workshops, treats, sort of style weekdays, um, e-books. We've been within the community, sort of day mini festivals where not just ourselves, but we've been bringing in other practitioners. It's all about supporting women's well-being in the local community of Kendal and the South Lakes. So, for example, recently we had a day of wonderful offerings. Everybody offered their time for free. It was just, gosh, we were so grateful. We're doing all of this for free ourselves, with some support from the local PCN, primary care network, to be able to hire rooms and so on. But we had a very well-known sports nutritionist talking about women's nutrition. I did some yoga. Kath was talking about hormones. We had people offering drumming, big drumming. People then talking about the work that they do in the community for women. And that's just one of the things we've done. And we've been doing these across something usually every month. And our next event, actually the end of this month, is somebody who works with Cumbria Addiction Society and talking about hacking healthy habits from the book Atomic Habits. And so it's about reaching out into the community because people do want to help, they do. And it's making those connections and pulling people together. And when you do that, you can create something wonderful. And so from that, it's been slowly drip feeding, and so we now have this desire, this sort of hopefully not blue sky thinking, but this desire that one day, in the not too distant future, we'll have created some sort of community hub where the two of us can be practicing, where we can have rooms and space for local practitioners so that the community can come in, maybe a cafe, rooms to go off for massage or yoga, just to come and sit and chat. And it's definitely been a discussion we've had from the beginning, from 2 years ago, that's what we're aiming for. So yes, in the pipeline is possibly the creation of a CIC, with another person who we're working with quite a lot, and try and start getting some funding together to develop that further.
No, I love that. I love
I
that.
know, it's exciting.
Yeah, really nice project, and
Yeah.
we need more of those within our local communities, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wish you all the best with it. I think it will
Thank you.
be, yeah, wonderful. And really, this is a good example of that some projects really, all projects take time to
Yeah,
actually to work on, and it doesn't happen overnight. There are no overnight successes. We kind of work
no.
on it and we become the practitioners to be able to hold it within our nervous system and physiology and connections and collaborations capacity. It does take time.
Absolutely. It does. And I've seen, sadly, how some of my wonderful local yoga friends perhaps have now not been able to sustain, and COVID had a lot to do with that as well, but not been able to sustain their work because we are all trying to sort of chase things down and make things happen. Of course, it's sort of quite a natural human way of being. And I've had to sort of resist that go, and try to go a bit deeper, a little bit slower, put the training in place, take my time, but keep making, particularly for me, it's been about making connections and really working in the community, and building from there. And slowly you start to become, I'm not talking about being famous at all, that's not what it's about, but you start to become known for the work that you're doing, and the benefit that it's having, and you start to find your niche. But it does take time, it takes a lot of work and energy,
Yeah.
um,
And
and you start to,
commitment.
and commitment, yes, and just finding the doors to open. It doesn't just land on your lap either. Yeah.
No.
And this is why the course has been so great, because it's taught me, as one of the things I've particularly been reflecting on recently, has been self-compassion. I've just finished reading Tara Brach's book, Radical Compassion, and obviously we've done a module recently on compassion, self-compassion. That really resonated with me, and thinking about my boundaries, to obviously do the work, put the hard work in, but know when to stop. And so myself, the same love and kindness that I'm trying to put out there into the community. But yeah, so lots of lessons to learn.
Yeah, yeah. And so what else did you kind of like or love about the training? Like you mentioned the self-compassion stuff and you mentioned a little bit the community.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that question. Because I don't think there's like one or two things that I've loved the most, because I genuinely have found, I'm going to say so much, but probably all of the course, everything that I hoped it would be and more. It's been incredibly nourishing and nurturing holistically, um, from our weekly gatherings and discussions, the shared psychoeducation, time for personal reflection, transferring the learning into my work. And and so I don't know it's so much about what I've loved the most, but I think the thing that I've noticed the most has been my personal growth, throughout the process. And so maybe I could say that's what I've loved the most, but that's what I've noticed the most. Um, I'm I know none of us are the same as the day before, and certainly not 6 months ago, but there's been a wonderful and sort of unexpected shift in me personally. And yes, I suppose for me that's probably what I've noticed the most for me.
Mm,
Yeah.
lovely.
Mm.
And if there was something, I don't know, if people are listening or people are watching, if they're watching the
Yes.
video, if there was kind of and wondering about the training and kind of thinking, shall I do it? Shall I not do it? I like what it says, but I'm not
Hmm.
sure. What would you kind of say? What would your advice be?
Um, as in sort of what I found my experience of the training to
Yeah,
be.
that could be it. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, so I suppose I can only go on personal. I try to be very careful not to tell
of
people what to
course.
do. So I can only obviously give my experience on why I think someone should do it, because this is what I got out of it. But it has been everything that I hoped for, and more, as I just said. And the course content or I have found the course content to be deep enough to build confidence for me in the area of trauma-informed somatics, whilst leaving sort of like a burning desire to go even deeper as well, which is very exciting. It's almost like you start going down rabbit holes. It's wonderful. I love that. But it's also broad enough, the course content, to have a good overview of what it means and what it feels like to be a well-rounded, trauma-informed somatic practitioner. Um, as you said, I was already sort of beginning to and had started working in this area anyway, so it's completely complemented the work that I've been doing, and helped me build further on that. Um, if someone was coming, I suppose, with having not started work in that area, it's still got the depth and the breadth to feel and build that confidence. You don't necessarily have to already be working in that. I found it very accessible, as a course content. Um, Other reasons that would encourage me to do this again are things like having the support, the incredible support of the group, of one another, that shared wisdom, experience, and also the sharing of very deep felt emotions that we've entrusted as a group. And you listen and you hear people's stories, and they may not be yours, but you really do learn from it. You really feel it, and it gives you feel grateful that someone is sharing that with you, because it is giving you another viewpoint, another side on life and other people's experiences. And as a result, we've all become very, very close, considering you're only online.
Mm.
Um, and without, I mean, I can't not say and talk a little bit about you as well, and how I found you to be incredibly, incredibly knowledgeable and so generous with sharing your own years of wisdom, and experience. And that's been done. And obviously everybody who's been on the course has inputted this as well, but it's been obviously molded and set up by yourself, and then sort of we've all come in and helped develop it. But the course and what you've created has, I found, to be very, very, very professional, and yet at the same time very loving, very empowering, very generous. And but at the same time, you've modeled for us boundaries and safety, which is really important when you're working in this field anyway.
Mm.
So at no time did I feel unsafe or pressured to do or be anything. Um, and so having that choice and that freedom within the course has been really, really important, not just for me, I'm sure for the rest of the course as well.
Lovely. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank you for
welcome.
your lovely words.
No, it's okay.
It's
I could carry on.
I always find it, it's you were talking about you being different, and I've been reflecting because we just started the new cohort, the spring cohort, and it actually started exactly a year after we started the beta cohort last year. And I've been reflecting on my own journey and the kind of who I am and how it changed me. And I am not the same person, not the same practitioner that I was a year ago. And not that I am completely different, just like what you said, but the interactions and holding space for all of you has been deeply enriching for me as well. It's like I learned from you all as well, and I feel deeply inspired by watching your work and how you are building this hub in your community for women and how you're collaborating with other women. I think it's amazing. And it's one of those things, that is very, very feminine, moving away from competition and from being the best into how can we do it together? And I love the stuff that you said about, people want to help and people want to contribute. And it often requires this couple of brave women or brave people to just say, shall we do it? Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's see how it works. Let's
yeah.
what we can create together, which is what you're
Oh,
doing. And it's so wonderful.
absolutely. But and actually, I know you were just saying about shall we do it? It just I really ought to mention the fact that even though we're all at different places around the country. In fact, one of our lovely ladies is in a different country, and but I had a thought, an idea of something I really wanted to do, because I've done a lot of strength training in the last few years, and I was trying to build up maybe the courage, I don't know, to actually become a strength coach myself with kettlebells. And I wasn't sure about doing it. And I got chatting to one of the girls in the course who herself has been doing some strength work. And we were talking, and this is what you love about when you work in these communities. You have these interactions and these discussions. And so we realized that actually quite naturally we had something that we both quite like to do, but actually would be better if we did it together.
Mm.
And and so we're working on what will eventually be our final piece of work for the course, on something that we hope, well, we're no, not we're definitely going to do in the future, initially together. And that's something that's really not very much talked of or heard of in the country, which is a more embodied and trauma-informed approach to strength training and
Mhm.
weightlifting. And I remember having the conversation with you saying, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing this thing, and I've only found one book in the whole world about it, of trauma-informed weight training." And you were brief, like, "Well, look, go and do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So he's like, "Well, why don't you do it then? Don't wait for somebody else." And so having that sort of having someone there to, like yourself, just sort of to soundboard off, and finding someone on the course to take this trauma informed, this somatic work, and taking it just maybe slightly away from my yoga. But actually what I've discovered is my strength training isn't very different to my yoga practice at all. They're very, very aligned in many ways. So that's been really exciting. And, again, making connections, not necessarily my community, but actually further afield now as well.
Yeah, I find that really, really exciting because
Mm,
those connections that you make and actually seeing that something is missing and
yeah,
saying, well, can't find it anywhere around. Let's just do it
let's do
ourselves.
it.
Why not? It's
Yeah,
it's that kind of understanding that every single thing that exists right now was created first in somebody's mind. There was an
yeah,
idea and the need and wanting to do something, some kind of desire, and then thinking, well, let's see what we can do. Let's
yeah,
see what can be created and how it can be created. Because the reality of it is, so often we focus on the how without actually fully embracing first what, and then working out how we can do
yeah.
it and what can work, and as an
Mm,
experiment. Yeah, it's
yeah.
exciting stuff. I will
So
be one
Steve.
of your students, definitely. As a
Well, I'm
51-year-old woman, I need more strength training, definitely.
yeah. Well, I'm very lucky that one of my clients who comes to me fortnightly, and she comes to me from a, rather than coming just, I don't want to use the word just, but not purely for yoga. Her need is based on past trauma and issues around particular events. And her yoga practice is very strong. And sometimes she will turn up and she's very self aware. It's wonderful. We have fabulous get togethers. But sometimes she'll turn up and she's seen my kettlebells along the side of the window, and she sees all my sort of more strength based resistance weight work, and she'll go, "Ah, I'm feeling like this today." And I said, "All right, well," and we'll talk about where that's in the body, how that's coming out. And she's like, "I just want to lift something really heavy." I'm like, brilliant. Well, do that then. And so it's absolutely appropriate. And so
Mhm.
we'll work with everything that we're learning on the course, the things that I will already perhaps have learned and discovered, but we'll work with the strength of the body so that she feels not just strong on the outside, but on the inside. And oh, the other day she left with a big smile on her face and sort of like had a different walk about her. It was wonderful.
Oh, I love
So
that.
yeah, that's lovely. So I'm sort of already just sort of tiptoeing towards that and see the value in it.
Oh, lovely.
Mm.
Lovely. Great example really of somebody
Mm.
really tuning in and knowing what they need and that need being met by you as a practitioner holding space. That's really great.
Yes, you know when not when you've got it right. I don't mean that. And I think I shared this with you the other day, but one of my clients and who comes fairly regularly, and she's aware of sort of going through the process of just taking some time to pause and checking in, and we take a bit of time to do that. And she turned up the other day and she said, "I've already checked in." So I've that tree over there. I've been watching that tree for the last few days, and that's her point of, I'm here now. I'm in this place. This is my safe place. I'm here with Lou, and I'm noticing the tree, and I'm noticing how it feels for me to be in this place with that tree. And I was like, oh, brilliant. And that really made my heart sing, because she was beginning to understand the importance of taking that time for herself and beat me to it.
Yeah, lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much, Lou.
You're
I'm sure
welcome.
we could be here for much
Yeah.
longer talking about stories and about
Yes.
clients and all the different ways that you've grown. And but thank you so much for taking time to chat with me and
You're
share your
welcome.
experience and about your work. And I wanted to ask if people listening to
Mm.
or watching this video or listening to the podcast wanted to kind of check out some more of your work and follow
Mhm.
up and maybe even connect with you, how can they do it? Where can they find you?
Yes, thank you. So you will find me on Facebook and Instagram. Currently working on a website, but my business name is Evolve Yoga and Somatics, and I'm based up in Kendal, in Cumbria. So you'll find me there. You'll be able to link into contact details on either of those two places. It'd be lovely to hear from people, even if it's just to have a chat and a natter.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. And definitely, watch this space for the
Yes.
community hub locally.
Yeah.
And
Let's hope
yeah,
so.
lovely. Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Aneta.
Lou.
You're welcome. It was a
You.
pleasure. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.